We are back on for Spaces at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Got our special guest today with Kevin coming on today. This should be a lot of fun today. Waiting for George to pop in. There he is. Invite to co-host. Sweet. Oh, man, look at that. Kevin, right on time. Gotta love it. All right. Invite to speak. Everybody coming in. How's everybody doing? Hey, George. How's it going, my friend?
Good.
Good.
Let's say one thing. The life of an independent wrestling promoter is never ending.
Yeah, I would assume so. I did send him the invite to speak, so, but yeah, no, I would.
He'll be he might be a couple minutes, but
That's fine. That's
he's
fine.
right there. He's already here.
I saw him pop in, but I know sometimes,
Wow.
Right?
Punctual.
So I'm not sure everybody knows, but if people did see, we've got War Dog Apollo, Kevin Apollo from the Toonie Talk group coming in and hanging out with us today from Toonie Talk Wrestling. That's knocking out two of the big four from him already. Way to go, George. How's it going, Kevin?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. I don't know if you heard. George told me live when we were recording that he was bringing you on, and I got pumped. I was excited. I popped.
Awesome,
I was like, all right, cool. George likes to sneak things on me sometimes. He says, like, hey, we're doing this. Hey, we're doing. Okay, let's party. That's fun. It's a good time.
So life of an independent wrestling promoter, Kevin, never ends, huh?
Oh God, never. It's not done until I lock the ring in the truck, and I still gotta pray that nothing happens.
There still could be something from the time you lock it till you get to the truck door.
So let me tell you. So when I first started running shows, there were not people who were happy in my area. So I was running in my old hometown. There's a nice youth center there. So we locked up my original trailer in like this old salt depot that they weren't using. So I go and I'm gonna do a ring rental for what was called NYWC down in New York City, and then we come to pick up the truck. So it's me and Bull James. He's gonna bring the truck down. We go to the trailer, and all my tires are slashed.
Oh God!
That's how petty indie promoters are.
Wow. And not even like let the air out, like slash. So that's
just
it.
I'm like, oh my God, man! It's like it's not like old school territory days where we're fighting for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh man,
Kev, since since around the independent wrestling thing, how hard is it nowadays connecting with the talent in the locker room than it used to be in your day?
Yeah, it is a different mentality. I won't say that for everybody. There are some guys who it's really easy to sit down and talk to them, and they kind of have that old school mentality. But it is the attitudes are very different. But with that said, there's that shared love of doing this, and if you're crazy to want to go train and learn how to do this, it's. You have to be a little not right in the head. So that shared love of wanting to do this enough, it does create a little bit of a bond, but it's a little different. It's just a little different. You have to be a little more gentle with how you put things. The expectations are, I would say, a little unnaturally higher, but it's still fun. I just don't think it's as fun as it used to be for me. And I'm sure if you talk to somebody who was doing this, 30 years ago, they probably have said the same thing about my group when we first broke in. But,
right. That's how it always goes every time. I mean, there's that story that, what is it, Luthez, that said Harley Race did too much gymnastics or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, there's always that. So that doesn't surprise me though, but at least you're still doing it and having fun with it.
Yeah,
What's the promotion called? What's the promotion called?
It's called American Coliseum Wrestling, or ACW. We run mostly out of Rockland County in New York and Bergen County in New Jersey. There are, since we've been up and running and have been a little successful, there have been a couple of other ACWs who have popped up. So I'm working on I know this is the way. It's what I get for being too poor to trademark my stuff. But so we're working on a little bit of rebranding. I'm hoping to have that all kind of rolled out by midsummer. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. our first couple of shows, we had a bunch of the, I say kids, but they're not that much younger than me. But like my first batch of shows, we had a couple of people you see on, on AEW now. Like Chris Statlander was a big, attraction for me. Bear Country, they were especially Joe. He was a huge help for me. Max Caster, did a bunch of stuff for us. So it's been cool, and I get to every once I get to call in some old friends, like, Crowbar. Crowbar, we trained out of the same school. We go way back. Crowbar actually gave me one of my favorite matches I ever had.
Awesome.
So he'll pop and do some shows for me. Same thing. Dreamer does a lot of my shows.
Cool.
And I can't say enough wonderful things about Tommy, man. That's a guy who will give you everything you've ever asked for and more. If you're willing to listen. And he's always a tremendous help, man. It's always great to have him on. And then, through that's how I got to meet Kevin Sullivan.
Oh wow,
dude! I'm devastated we lost Kevin, man. He was so awesome just to talk to, and just again, just another guy. He gave you everything you could have asked for and more, and just phenomenal stories. Just awesome, man. Just an awesome human. Just an awesome human to have been able to interact and have learned from.
That's so awesome. Any chance we get you in the ring one more time?
Now that my kids are, I've got 3 kids.
Right.
2 of them hit double digits, so they'll see old pictures of me. And back when I was a lot more svelte. So they go, "That's not you." So now they're old enough. Especially now my youngest, he's my son. So, youngest is a boy. So I want to give them some proof of life. So I'm working on it.
Right.
I got another 20 pounds to go, and then we'll see what happens.
Cool.
You got to show them what Dad can do. It also probably help with, especially when the girls start dating. Just throw that video on the background if somebody comes over. Just no, what's that? Oh, nothing. That's just some home movies. It's fine.
Well, that's it. I'm gonna give them the Marcellus Wallace speech.
Yes.
Hey, Kev. I wanted to ask you one thing before I let Jake ask his questions.
Sure.
With the current schedule that AEW is running and somewhat WWE, how do you think these guys and gals stay in ring shape? Because they're not in the ring very often. They're only in there once, maybe twice a week. How are they supposed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does that work?
That's a phenomenal question. I won't go too deep into it because I don't want to get certain people in trouble, mostly on the AEW side.
Shocking.
But at least it's hard, right? Especially when we look at the way the WWE schedule is now, they don't do as many house shows, and I think what's kind of hard for people to kind of get is, especially when you're learning. The NXT kids, listen, they bump like it's their job. They're on site at 8:00. They're not done till 5, lunch break. Then they've got their conditioning afterwards, squeezing in promo classes. So it's, they're in there 5 days a week. They're 5 days a week, 8 to 6. I think it was, what was it? The Tuesday or Wednesday is their TV day. And on Saturday, they're doing untelevised events. And then Sunday is their only real true day off. So, they are out there, but, when you're first learning, you can practice and work it all you want. You don't really start to kind of really get your sea legs until you're out there in front of a live crowd, right?
Sure.
Because they're going to give you different energy. What might work for one is not going to work for another. What worked here might not work there. So you need to be in front of that live audience and start learning how to, one, just even process the feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. You just have to learn how to process it. And then you really start learning how to adjust, and you start to figure out what works. The WWE had kept a very aggressive schedule for a very long time. Right. With it being shortened, for the main roster guys who've been doing this forever, it's better for them because their bodies get a little time. Your body gets time to heal. They were running a rough cycle. But when you're younger, you do need those reps. It's crucial. It's crucial. It's really hard, honestly, for the AEW guys, especially the ones who I would dare say had no business being signed. because they didn't have anywhere near enough experience to be being put out on national TV. You know,
Right. Yeah.
they just gobbled people up real quick. You know what I mean? And it's like, nah, dude, like no one who's been doing, unless you look like freaking Goldberg or Batista, right? No one
Right.
has any business being signed, doing this for under 2 years. You do not know what you're doing yet. And a lot of they don't. You know, AEW doesn't run house shows. They do TV. You're not always going to be used on TV. Like you may go, you know, we've seen dudes go like 6 to 8 week cycles,
Yeah.
you know, in between matches. And then if you're
Yeah.
lucky, you'll go another 6 to 8 weeks. And then if you're lucky, you'll get thrown on the ROH zombie show, right? So, so if they're not doing,
That's good.
I'm sorry. I'm not an AEW
true.
hater, you know, but I just
It is what it
call
is. You're just honest. You're just an honesty broker. That's all you are.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know, so it is really hard. They have a lot to. I feel bad. Like, listen, when they get on TV and they do these bots and stuff like that, and they get ripped apart, I genuinely feel bad because I go, it's not their fault.
Yeah.
That's AEW's management's fault because they're not getting the reps, and you're putting them on live TV, bro. First of all, I got to try out for a dark match. I didn't actually get one. But the a TV match is radically different than a regular match. So I was just fortunate enough that the school that I trained in, my instructor was an old school job guy. Worked for all major companies. All major companies, have been around for a long time. He even started with like in the Dennis Carluzzo days.
Oh wow.
So like everything he did was teaching us how to wrestle for TV, not for the crowd, just for TV. Know where your hard cam is, understand how you need to be reacting, understand how you need to be reading the crowd, make sure you're in the middle of the ring, stuff like that. But going out to perform on live TV, it is a radically different mindset. It requires a radically different set of skills. And I've heard horror stories about how they treat their agents there. Like, I always tell this story because it blows my mind. Someone walked up to Jerry Lynn and said, "What do you even know? Like what do I have to listen to?" And I'm like, bro, if it wasn't for Jerry Lynn, none of you would have a job.
God, that hurts my face. That's like legitimately like a pain behind my eye. That's just like, oh God, what?
It's honestly, it's why I get so hot whenever we have somebody. It's like, oh my God, you guys don't understand how much knowledge you like. I know people who would actually go to the way to probably try to commit an act of murder to be exposed to the people that they have access to. So but a lot of but to answer your question, dude, I feel bad because no, they don't nearly get enough reps, and doing indie shows is not giving you the experience that you need.
Right.
You do the indies when you're on the indies. When you are at the next level, you need to work the next level to learn how to, and need to work next level people in order to know how to master your craft there. It's very different animals, especially modern indies.
I'm sure. I feel like Dominik Mysterio is the prime example of what you're saying, because when he first turned heel and like started getting more featured in that role, if you saw his schedule, he was working Raw and then going down and working at NXT, Tuesday through Saturday, and like getting the reps in, and look where he is now. There used to be a comparison of him and Hook, and now there's not.
Dominik is because we watched Dominik grow as a talent on TV, right? Like,
right.
He was doing those house shows, and he was your standard. I'll tell everybody, it is really hard to be a babyface, to be a white bread babyface when you're brand new. It's like you don't know what to do, so you don't want to do the lame ass indie stuff of like, come on, where you're pumping your arms in front of your chest and you're just screaming and smiling because you're happy to be there. No one likes that crap. They'll laugh you out of the building half the time. So learning how to be a babyface, try to get over, and you saw how people just crapped all over him when he first started. But like Dominik is in the fire, like he's legit in the fire. So he's sink or swim, super duper old school, because a lot of the times, like if you were a new guy, and you were in a certain territory, a lot of people don't understand. It's like if I wanted to get on. If they were like, say they're doing like a 4-day stretch in my town, that if I wanted, I may show up Thursday and they're like, ugh, whatever. They'll ignore me. But if I show up on Friday, I may get a random match. I may get a match Saturday. If I'm lucky, I'll get paid on Sunday. and if someone liked you, you may get invited to come along. But if you get invited to come along, your butt was in the fire right out the box. You needed to learn. You needed to learn fast, and if you couldn't, you didn't work, right? So we got to watch Dominik make his mistakes and just grow by leaps and bounds. And where he is today versus what during the pandemic era, they're radically different creatures. And like you said, compared to Hook, I think Hook has a lot of growth potential. Is my personal opinion, I don't think he's going to get that there. No. They don't have the infrastructure there to really help you get to the next level. I would say I think Hook would be better off actually just working the indies and being around people who know, who aren't necessarily on TV now but used to be, and then trying to get NXT. So, but again, there's a lot of potential. People get mad when I say it, but like I just don't see it. I don't think if I'm a young kid and I'm in AEW, my potential is not going to be actualized there. They don't have the infrastructure for it.
Have you tried to get Hook on your promotion since he's from the area, kind of, sort of?
No, when he was, you still get one of my best friends in all the world, is Bull James. I actually broke him in, former Bull Dempsey. We run, the parent company for my, for ACW is actually called Coliseum Sports Attractions. So we work under the same LLC. He runs his shows, Outlaw Wrestling, mostly out of the boroughs. He does really fantastic shows. And has leveraged a lot of people for anybody who they were. Like he was booking Orange Cassidy and everybody else before like anybody even could pretend to know who they were. But Bull was one of the few actual Taz students that went of that academy that he did in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He was one of the only ones who graduated. He had a fantastic relationship with Taz, and for a long time, Hook was not going to wrestle. He had no interest in it, and the interest in wrestling popped up almost very suddenly, and bam, he was in AEW, and he wasn't really doing indie slots, Whereas I got lucky where I got a lot of the guys that used to do my shows, before All Out happened, or what was it, All Out, or whatever the one the Garden was, before that happened. So, once they kind of got locked in, I wasn't really able to use them much because really I'm small. Like I don't have a school. So I don't have a lot of that extra ancillary revenue coming in. I don't have a money mark. So if anybody's listening out there who's investing in a company, please, I'm very open to it. So it's like really, it's what my budget is. Okay, what do we make on the last show? After I pay everybody, do I have enough, to roll into the next show's budget? And then I work, I work from there. Super duper old school.
Yeah, you embracing the grind literally.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. You made a couple of name mentions that kind of caught my ear of because I was going to ask you about is there certain talent that come from schools who know are going to be good? Because it seems as someone who's a complete observer, has never done anything in the business at all, that certain whenever I see someone come out of the Create-A Pro Academy, they're always usually at least have a general idea of what they're doing, like Statlander or, Max Caster, that sort of thing. Are there some that are good? And then we don't have to name any of, but there's some that when you see that's where they were trained, you're like, oh shit, this is not going to be good.
Dude, that happens a lot. And I won't
sure.
And because it depends on where you're coming from, because, I think with a lot of, especially modern schools, there are a lot of wrestling schools out there right now. The problem is there aren't enough wrestling schools that have guys running them who actually did anything.
Right.
So it's, you can't learn how to do this unless you're being trained by someone who was a worker, but a worker who had a certain amount of experience. Just like you can't really learn how to be a star until you work with stars, but if your guy was a job guy, those guys were the greatest on the planet because they were the guys who knew how to make the star look like the star. So I was like, that's the dude you want to go learn from. Right now, a lot of these schools are run by people who just happen to be in the school long enough, or they were delusional enough to start their own school, or they do like a bastardized version of the Al Snow method, where it's a 6 to 12 week program and they run drills to death. And then once you're done running those drills and you're set out in the wild, then God help anybody who comes across you, because you don't know enough of what you're doing to even ask proper questions. But my God, you sure have a lot of demands.
That's dangerous.
Oh yeah, it's rough. It's rough. And, I've learned how to grin and bear it, especially because I can't say the things that I would have said during my era. without being canceled on social media. But I guess if you follow my Twitter, I don't really care too much. but for the sake of keeping things easy for my friends, I just I'll just kind of grind my teeth and count to 10 and pray to God that no one told me want to murder you while you were talking to me.
So let me step outside for a second, take a breath. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, I could see that, especially with so many people. It's an unfortunate thing that they read on the internet what they think they have to do. They get a little bit of training, and then they want to be, I don't want to be the main event, but like the match right before, that's cool, right? Like I could see the entitlement sometimes just being like,
it's effing, and it's like, I laugh. Like when I first started, what you did get a lot of was the promoter or the promoter's kid was the person who had to go be in the main event. It's like, whatever, I don't care. I'm here, I'm getting my reps in. As long as my match isn't crap, who cares? And then you get the guy who was a self-appointed darling. Or you get the guy who, for whatever reason, is an indie darling because they paid to get pop up on WrestleZone a few times. And I'm like, bro, you can't even do a snapmare. Who are you to be telling me you're not going to do XYZ in a match? Like, where is this coming from? Or I'm like, you want how much? All right, brother. Like, I was always taught that your pay was commensurate to the amount of butts you could put in the seats. So how many butts are you going to put in these seats? Because if I'm going to give you $100, $200, that means you should be giving me at least $400 worth of tickets sold. Oh, you can't do that? Okay, sorry. I don't think we have too much to talk about that.
It's the end of that conversation, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works anymore. Because you get someone who's like, man, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to give you a 10-minute match. All right, bro. Like, I saw what you got, and you want to do a 10-minute match, but you only got 4 minutes of wrestling in you. So maybe we only do 5 plus entrances. All right, cool. $50 for what? You just showed up and gave me a half-ass match. What am I giving you $50 for? Like, you should legitimately be getting a hot dog and a smile.
And a begrudging smile, no teeth in the smile.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and a begrudging smile at that. Yep.
That's it. So long, farewell. I don't remember saying farewell.
Kev, how you feeling about the Swerve Strickland experiment over at AEW there?
Dude, so I'm of two minds on it. Right, like, listen, good for Swerve, but also I think, when it comes to the Booker T stuff, Swerve really pissed me off because this is a guy who he comes from a military family, was military, served, when he was in school, was an academic standout, an athletic standout. This is a guy who should be a living, breathing role model for anybody and everybody, whatever your skin color is, right?
Right.
I feel like because it's convenient, he'll lean into whatever the black activist movement of the moment is. Like, oh, hey, Swerve, what do you think about? Well, why are you asking about that? I'm going to do me. But this thing happened. Well, this is just a travesty for all black people. And I was like, bro, there's no reason to play that game. Like, and even like, and just with the, I don't know, he likes to play hard. I'm like, bro, you're a suburban kid. You grew up in Germany. Right. Like, you don't know anything about hood life. What are you doing? Like, you're playing, like, I get it. We all got a role to play, but you're playing a role you got no business playing. Like, come out here and shine and be a super athlete and wow people. Because, like, you guys heard me scream 1,000 times on Twins. I hate the poor little rich guy mentality that you see a lot of the times when someone goes to AEW. Like Swerve, when he was in WWE, he got a lot of attention really fast. He was on 205 Live, and he had a lot of momentum. They put him on the main roster house shows. He would have been big, except COVID happened. Right. And then they threw him on NXT. And then NXT went and flipped everything over, and they were giving this guy a crap ton of momentum. Swerve was one of the most over things in the planet, up to and including building a group around him so that he didn't have to get bumped. And then, just by virtue of he made a decision when they got to SmackDown, they got released, but it wasn't anything to do with not wanting to use their talent. It was just Vince had a certain bug up his butt about a certain thing that I don't know if we're allowed to talk about. Well, it's X, but I don't know if people want to talk about certain things, but Vince wanted them all to do a certain thing. They didn't want to do that thing, and so he released them. And then he got to AEW faster than Triple H could assume control, but he would have been right back in WWE,
right?
And he would have been put in a primo position. AEW, again, Swerve is just a guy, like, he's very dynamic. He's very charismatic. So people are naturally going to gravitate to him, right? But he also got the benefit of people were calling out Tony for grossly mishandling black talent. I always feel like, where is Scorpio Sky? What happened?
God, I hadn't thought about him forever.
Your Private Party, I'll say, exactly. I'll say Private Party was a group who should have never been signed. They were brand new to the indies. They got plucked off, and they're there 5 years later, and they haven't gotten anywhere near close to the development that they should have gotten. Yes, they got some exposure to the Hardys, and they're in a better place than they were, but they're not nearly where they should be at this point in their career. And it's criminal that was done to them, right? But Swerve got the benefit of Tony. Tony only responds to things when Tony's being bullied by the internet. And they put the rocket on Swerve, which, yes, he would have gotten eventually. And then, they gave him the title, but anybody who was paying attention understood that his world title run had a hard expiration date on it, right? If Tony was at the last second, we all know that belt was going to go on Ospreay. And that Swerve had it because Tony needed to be like, oh, hey, I can do things with black people, other than get yelled at by them after they get fired. Big swole. So it's like, yeah, I don't. It's like, and I get, and it's like I get pissed because, like, well, okay, you did it, you did it half-assed, but Swerve, to his credit, made it work. Swerve, to his credit, has been one of the only people who kind of is enough of a force that he's on TV consistently enough. But he does a lot of really dumb things and says a lot of really dumb things and makes it hard for you to want to really get behind him, as an observer and get this guy over the moon. And AEW is in a space right now where they're not cool. They're not cool. They're the silly brand. They're the brand that gives people the ick. They need athletes who can drag them to the other side and get that mainstream appeal and get people who used to watch it to feel good about it again. Like it's kind of like the dork brand. And we've never really had that before, right? I'm an old head, but I watched everything. It didn't matter how bad the wrestling was. The fact that the wrestling was bad usually made it better.
The old LOL TNA days. I remember those.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. So it's like, but like, just kind of how the brand presents itself and the thing that the talent does on social media and in front of a live mic, it's douche chilling. And you're like, I want to cheer for this. I want to be about it. But man, I feel like I'm being punished. This is a punishment assignment. And they don't have a compelling enough product to be able to make those mistakes. The honeymoon period's over, and you can see it in the ratings. They're almost at the point where they're like, we will pay you to watch it. That's where they're at. We'll watch for food. So it's like I don't know. They just really desperately put the crap together.
It's more important for Tony to be in charge than be successful. Like if he wanted to.
Yep.
Oh, Jake, you're spurging. You're freaking. Oh, yeah, you're not good. Okay, Jake's going to take a break for a minute. Kev,
I'm rambling. Cut me off, too.
That was weird. So is there anybody that AEW can pick up off this recent release list from WWE you think can help them out?
Honestly, no. And here's why. Like, I know people are crapping all over Edge because he wasn't a needle mover. It doesn't matter who it is. Once they're there for more than 2 weeks, it's going to fall off. The show itself needs a radical overhaul. It needs a production overhaul. It needs a creative overhaul. It's not the talent that's the problem in AEW.
Right.
It's the leadership. It's creative. It's the production. So it doesn't matter who you bring. They can drop The Undertaker there. And fine, they're going to get a great pop. Oh my God, The Undertaker was on AEW. Oh my God, so was it. But 2 weeks later, okay, who cares? It's the same crap. Yes, you know what? They released a lot of girls.
Right.
And that women's division does need help, but they also don't know what to do with people. So I'm really hard pressed. My mindset is, depending on your age, right? Because if I'm a guy like a Josh Alexander, I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. I've got a lot of injuries. I actually accomplished the main goal I had in life, which was to become TNA champion. I know that I'm probably not going to get a lot of mileage out of a WWE run, but if Tony's going to give me a giant enough contract for me to catch out and take care of my family, I'm going to go to AEW. Whereas if I'm young and I'm still trying to build my equity, I'm still trying to get myself out there and build my brand, I'm staying as far away from AEW as humanly possible, unless Tony writes a check that's so big I can't ignore it. Okada. But because to me, I'm like, I'd rather take my chances going to TNA or going overseas and reinventing myself, and trying to pull a Cardona where, where I reinvented myself so thoroughly that people can't help but notice or I guess maybe even like Drew McIntyre. McIntyre did phenomenal after he got released and had that brief little run in TNA and totally reinvented himself. So there's tons of opportunity for a lot of the people who got cut. I guess maybe if you really had to, it would be, I would say Strowman. But even then, I don't know, what are you going to do with him?
Can he still even run? His legs look bad every time.
That's it, too. So but yeah, I don't know. I'm talking about who's released. I'm shooting for TNA. I'm shooting for TNA. I'm shooting for New Japan, who is in desperate need of new stars and new blood and new energy. We all know what's up with this long shot of creating essentially the Japanese NWA. The energy isn't there. The money isn't there. So we gotta do something where we all band together and pray that the rising tide will lift all ships. But that's also why I feel in my heart of hearts they're going to wind up working out some kind of a deal with the WWE, because at the end of the day, what's going to be the most exciting thing that can happen for them? You get someone like a Sheamus or an Austin Theory in the G1 tournament. Well, that's doing gangbusters, because a WWE mid-carder who isn't on TV often is still more famous than 90% of the main eventers on your show.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to stay away from AEW unless the check is really big.
Yeah, I think Baszler will end up there, but that's about it for me.
That's about it. I think she's the only person who really kind of get anything out of it.
Yeah, she'll get one.
They can put her. They can put her back with with Kyle and
Marina Shafir. I saw she posted a picture on Instagram today of the two of them. So yeah, that makes sense. But you said she's older, so it makes sense. She's over 40, isn't she? So yeah, she's not even close to 40. She's over. So yeah, any of the older people, I agree with you 100%. TNA is where I would go.
Yeah. Well, you know what? AEW can maybe, if they don't fumble it, you can finally do the triple threat match with Marina, Baszler, and Rhonda, and give that to fans what they want. And then again, you could put Shayna back with Kyle O'Reilly and those guys, and and mimic some of that ROH energy. And then after that, it is what it is, But other than everybody else, if I'm Cora Jade, I'm going to TNA.
She's already established herself in TNA with what she's done with the partnership.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like yes, TNA can't take everybody under the sun, but to me, TNA's the place where I want to go if I'm young or newly released. The energy and the momentum is there.
Yeah, they're more fun to watch, and it's at least because AEW, their biggest problem is the and then what? Like they can set something up initially, but and then what? Like you said, they could bring out Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, whomever. Okay, and then what? Like that's even like with Hangman's title thing, like where their longest story they ever told, with Hangman getting over being a drunk and all that, and beating Omega. What happened after? Nothing. The and then what?
That's it.
Drives me nuts. That's what kills me. I want them to be good. I tried and they drove me insane. That's all I got. Like it's
no, I get it.
I tried.
I get it.
I'm a very positive human being and they made me just not want to watch.
Kev, Jake and I talked about it on our last show. Tony just doesn't know how to run a TV program, does he?
No, not at all. Not at all. And for a guy who is allegedly supposed to be an analyst, I would think that he should be able to pull the data to see where exactly the show is not succeeding, because it's their problems are where the problems have always been since day one. To me, it's like, listen, dude, the one thing I'll give you is once you get it, wrestling is not hard. The famous Rip Rogers quote, I apologize for cursing, but the famous Rip Rogers quote, this shit isn't hard, because it's not. It's wrestling is, and I mean this in the most a positive way you can say it. Wrestling is about a lowest common denominators. It is about a visceral emotion, visceral reactions, good versus evil. It is super simplistic storytelling. The only time it should ever be complicated is if you're telling a really long story and you need to find a way to extend it to get to a certain point that you need to make. The other than that, it's good guys versus bad guys. Is it a personal beef or is it is it a professional beef? You beat me a couple times, I got to get my win back. Okay, you beat me again. So now while you're cutting this interview, I'm gonna chop block you. I'm gonna throw you into my submission. I'm gonna hurt you because I need to embarrass you. And then what do we follow up with? We come back the next week and the good guy is limping to the ring and demands a fight. And your authority figure goes, no, you're not cleared to wrestle, but we'll set it up for 3 weeks at this place. And just before the good guy goes to leave, what happens? The bad guy comes out and chop blocks him again and throws him into submission one more time. Like the shit's super simple. I just gave you 4 weeks of TV in 20 seconds.
The problem is Tony would put it in 20 seconds. He would have that in one segment.
That's it.
That's the problem.
Dude, and that one segment would repeat 5 times. How many times have we been watching the show and you have seen 6 run-ins, 6 run-ins in a row, 3 of the same kind of lame-ass vignette, and then you get like a match where you're like, well, what was the point of this? Why did this happen? Or go like, why is this terrible match closing out the show? This is like the opening and the close are the most important moments of the show. Why is this lame crap happening here? What is going on? It's like no one asked for this.
Like when we talked about the MJF Hurt Syndicate thing, and they did it all in, like Jake said, not even 15 minutes, the whole segment was gone. That would have been the great main event if they would have spaced it out through. Seriously. Opened up the show with it, 9:00 hour main event, but they don't do any of that, and it drives me crazy because I want
you want it to be good.
I like to stick around and watch the main events, but the main events suck,
and they don't matter. Like it has no. The whole point of wrestling, it's all about making an emotional connection, but they focus on the moves, and it's like the moves are part of it, but if you're not connected to the why behind them, who cares? I mean, Jey Uso is your prime example. His moves aren't the best. His matches aren't the best, but he's connected with a chunk of the audience, and it's most of them. It's not that hard to see.
I tell people all the time, too, being a star in wrestling, it has very little to do with your ability to wrestle. It really does. you got to have a look, and you've got to have charisma. And if you have something to say, it's even better. Like, Lex Luger to me is one of my favorite wrestlers. I love Sting, but the fact of the matter is, neither one of them could talk until way late in their career. Luger didn't really figure it out until the end of WCW, but he looked like a star, carried himself like a star, and the Torture Rack was one of the greatest finishers of all time. Sting was a very dynamic performer, but his promos were the drizzling shits, and he couldn't talk until he got to TNA, right? And then you finally got to see cool Sting. And then you get a guy like Austin. After Austin breaks his neck, Steve Austin's wrestling style was radically different. Like, he changed. There wasn't a lot of finesse in there, right? Until he was gone, and then he came back and he had that awesome match with Benoit. I'm like, oh my God, Stone Cold can still wrestle. But like, people pay to see familiarity, right? Like, Hogan. People paid to see Hogan point at you, give you a big boot, drop the leg. The Rock. People paid to see the People's Elbow, and sometimes the Rock Bottom, but guess what? The People's Elbow was more important. Same thing. Austin, the Stunner. The Fez press whip punches, Stunner. Cena, attitude adjustment, you can't see me. Like, Brett's probably the only guy who like had more moves than everybody that everybody wanted to see, because we knew that Brett was going to hit the 5 moves of Doom. We just wanted to see what sequence he was going to hit them in this time. The Flair, I want to see him flip over the turnbuckle, and I want to see him hit the figure 4. Like, it's like all the biggest names don't do a lot of stuff. That wasn't really until until Eddie, until Eddie, so the Eddies, the Engels, the Jerichos, and even then they got the WWE. What did it come down to? Lion Salt, Lion Tamer. Ray 619. Eddie Frog Splash. So it's like the greatest talents. You're not doing a lot, because that's not what people want to see you hit the greatest hits. Give me my hits, and then I'm going to go home. And if you got an encore for me, let me see the encore. But I'm here for Enter Sandman.
Right. And
let's get to it.
And then save your big jam set for the major shows, for the big shows that have a great 25-minute match where you do everything you can do, as opposed to Will Ospreay, who does everything he can do in every single match. So none of it feels special at all.
Jake, that's perfect, because all those finishes that Kevin mentioned, they're all protected.
Yes.
They're all protected finishes for the most part.
Exactly.
Dude, the cage match with Kyle Fletcher, right? I love this because right what happened the next night after we get Rollins and Punk. No one remembers that they did a Spanish fly off the top of the cage, right? No one remembers it. No one remembers it. The audience didn't even really pop for it, because then they immediately went to 5 other finishers that meant nothing. Versus what did you get in Punk and Rollins? Like, the biggest move of the night was the superplex, and it wasn't even off the top of the cage. It was Punk just off the top of the cage, and Rollins had a regular superplex. So it wasn't like the Bret Sid superplex off the top of Big Blue. So so we're talking like super simple shit getting talked about with this great reverence, versus stuff where someone could have actually died. If someone's head went to the left instead of the right. And for all its pomp and circumstances, no one remembers it. No one's ever going to remember it, because AEW is too stupid to play clips to remind you of cool stuff.
No recap.
And it wasn't the finish.
It wasn't even the effing finish. Well, or same thing with Tony Storm and Mariah, right? Like they had the dumb table bump wasn't even the finish of the match. Like, what was the point? Yeah. If you're gonna do all this big shit, it's gotta mean something. Because now you get to the point where what's left to do? You have to pull out a weapon and shoot someone. It's like, well, like, I don't. Why are you driving it to a point where there's no way it becomes impossible to please even the easiest to please?
Yeah, I feel like
they're hitting 5 finishes, and then they're winning with a roll up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
dude, and like what? Like, I think Jake mentioned it, and Cornette's mentioned it. A bunch of they get the crowd up, the crowd's up, hit it now, end it, and they lose the crowd. The crowd's gone.
And they go 5
We
more
saw
minutes.
Yep. And dude, we've seen the end result of this. We watched this kill Japanese wrestling at the close of the 90s.
Right.
Like, they would do all this insane crap in FMW and all this crazy stuff in New Japan. We're like suplexes galore. Everybody's getting, like, we're seeing German suplexes from the apron to the floor. And then all of a sudden the match ends in a small package 20 minutes later. Like, what?
And these people, they see these matches, like the people now see the clips or the tapes of those matches, and they think it was great. It's like, no, that killed it. Or they see like Attitude Era stuff, and they think like Shane McMahon was falling off the Titantron on every Monday Night Raw. It's like, no, that was once. That was at a SummerSlam once. One time he did that. Like, Jesus. And they just want to do it every freaking show. And now that it seems like they're leading to another Blood and Guts, and like, yay! Oh Christ! Please God, no. Just please don't die. Please don't die. That shouldn't be a chant. That should not be a chant that ever happens in this.
Seriously though. I think about this. Like if you were around for like ECW, like old school ECW, like we're throwing chairs into the ring, ECW. Like if you got through that and people didn't chant "Please don't die" unless it was a joke at Mikey Whipwreck or Spike, you're in trouble. Like, you are in trouble. Like, it's gone too far. And we're at a spot where everybody forgets, like, the New Jack Vic Grind spot was a mistake.
Right.
That was a horrible accident when it happened to ECW. So when you're doing stuff that's happening in lieu of a major mistake where people almost got, killed, you're going in the wrong direction. You're going, like, we're going towards ancient Rome levels of debauchery, and that's not good for anybody because it's insustainable.
Yeah, and you can see it in the crowd.
How do you top it?
That's all they're waiting for. Oh, what are you going to do next? That was cool. You jumped through the fire. Great. Now jump off the cliff. Oh, Jesus.
Yep, that's it. Right, dude. The thing about Spike had gone through so many tables that they had to start setting the tables on fire. To their credit, they only did it a couple of times, but yeah, that's where it got so commonplace that we had to start setting dudes on fire for a little bit.
Scary.
And then finally someone was like, all right, brother, slow it down.
Pull that back a little bit.
So Kevin, I'm interested, Kev, as a young Kevin Apollo, what were you watching? What were your favorite things to watch as a kid?
Dude, So when I'm an 80s baby. I'm an 80s baby. So so I didn't have cable until I think 88, 89. Ooh. But my grandparents always had it. So whenever I slept with my grandparents, I would always watch NWA. I would at TBS. So I watch World Championship Wrestling in the morning, and then Saturday night.
Right.
And then when I was home, cause my dad was a cop, so my mom was always conked out, but depending on what time my dad was going to come home, I would stay up and watch WCW Power Hour. And it came on local, if you're New Yorker, CBS at 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I think it may have been later. I watched WWF Superstars, all that stuff. I cried when Vader beat up Gorilla Monsoon. And then someone told me about this thing called ECW. And I was like, what do you mean? Yeah. I finally found it, and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest. This is the worst / greatest thing I've ever seen.
The best worst thing ever.
Yes.
You find it at 3 a.m.
2 o'clock in the morning on MSG.
Okay, that's what we watched it in Buffalo. Yes.
Hey, I live here in Phoenix. It came through here on a Spanish channel. You had to listen because they didn't mute the English commentary. They just dubbed Spanish over it, so you could kind of hear Joey Styles sometimes. But I still watch. That's how I had to watch it over here in Arizona. Yeah, it's great though. I loved it. It's on channel 33, the Spanish channel. At I think it was midnight or 1 a.m. It was awesome.
I watch Glow.
Nice.
I love WoW. WoW was one of my favorite. It was Destination TV for me in 2001. I was we were eating so well in 2001. I was like, because I watched all the syndicated shows too. I just couldn't get enough. And then I was friends with tape traders. So in order to get new stuff, I can't tell you how many times I've watched the first 6 episodes of Nitro because I had I had 4 VCRs.
Wow.
So I had to because when I went away to college because I needed to watch Raw and Nitro, and my first roommate was a hockey player. He was a hockey player from Boston, so we had to also make room for hockey.
Right.
So we had 2 TVs set up. We had 2 TVs set up, but 3 VCRs just in case there was some kind of overlap. Because we also had to make room for Monday Night Football every once in a blue moon.
Huh?
And when I was home, I had to bring all my stuff with me. So, okay, you got 4 VCRs. I need you to make copies of all these tapes for me. This guy needs the first 5 episodes of Nitro. And I wanted to vomit. I still get chills if I wind up putting on YouTube and one of the first 5 episodes of Nitros, I'm like, I can't do this still. But
That's awesome.
it was everything. I couldn't get enough of it, especially like when RF video was new and like all that Cactus Jack Terry Funk stuff came out. The the Tiger Jeet Singh sword spot, through the tights, but it was through the legs. Oh my God,
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite things I got my hands on, and I'm so mad because I lost it. I found the guy on eBay who sold me a bunch of Memphis tapes.
Oh.
So I saw one of my favorite finishes of all time was Lawler versus Tatum. And it was a loser leaves town match. Lawler loses, so they go through the big thing of showing Lawler drive out to the to the edge of Memphis, and he leaves the town. Yep, and then the very next night he comes back out and he attacks Tatum live on the set, and he's like, "You're not supposed to be here." And Lawler's like, "It was a loser leaves town match. I left town.
Yeah.
What did you think was gonna happen?" Like, it was just stuff like that, or like you can see I was because you saw they did all this hardcore stuff. Like we're talking a whole decade before ECW.
Right.
I watched Rock and Roll Express going through tables, being pile driven through tables, and I love the Memphis Cage, which was just the chicken wire. I'm like, I loved all that stuff, man. I'm serious. I just love wrestling. So ESPN, so I'm watching Global Force and all that stuff. I just love it, man. I didn't really know what the indies were until way later. Actually my first indie match was actually Crowbar versus a guy named Johnny Thunder, who I would later become very good friends with, a guy who was just super talented, super duper talented, man. And it's fun. You know what I mean? It's just fun to watch. If it comes across and you see some straight garbage, you're like, all right, let's see how bad this match can get.
Right.
Who doesn't remember watching the Jumpin' Jeff Farmer Motley Bruise, promo for the first time? I love that crap, man. It's just fun. There is no entertainment form, like wrestling.
Yeah.
It can be the goofiest thing or sometimes the scariest thing ever. I wrote an entire college essay on the Jake the Snake, uses the snake to bite Macho Man.
Oh wow.
Incident.
Right.
The feedback I got from the teacher was, I used to love wrestling. You brought me back. Thank you. This paper was a lot of fun.
What they give you as a grade?
And I think it was for a mass communication thing.
What'd you get for a grade?
I got an A on it. I got an A on it.
If you're bringing somebody back to it, you've got it. They better give you an A on that. That's exactly what else you asked for.
Yeah, so funny thing is my freshman year, the school I went to, my advisor, my student advisor, was a brand new student advisor when Mick Foley was there.
Oh wow!
And he was also a communications teacher. So we wound up watching the Foley Hunter Hearst Helmsley match in Big Blue as a means of effective communication for storytelling. And I'm like, I love this stuff. I just feel like I can't get away from it. So I'm just gonna embrace it and love it. Even the gym I went to, before I realized that we went to the same school, and that we lived in the same town, because when I first knew him, he was, so much smaller. But, the wrestler Paul Enormous, he was, in The Wrestler, passed away a few years ago. We become good friends, but like he was friends with Little Guido and a bunch of other wrestlers, and it's like, wow, like you guys all go to my gym. That's cool. Like it's it's like there's always like these weird little connects. The person who broke me into the business.
That's the next question I was going to ask. Actually, was how you got into the business.
So my old high school football coach, he was a wrestler called Scotty Charisma. He used to wrestle for Jim Kettner. He did he was like the ECW tournament, all that other stuff. And I'd come home from college, and I was like, I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I got a job working in an IBM, and it was like a customer liaison thing where like it was before cloud computing.
Mm-hmm.
So like companies using their data tapes, and they would do their testing and stuff like that. So like it was like a continuity recovery service, what they called it. So I was either super busy or not busy at all. So I had a little stretch where I just didn't have anything to do. So I would put the TV on. Really low in the back, and just kind of let it play, and then I would just fart around the internet. And somehow I came to this page of I think I typed in like local wrestling. I put in my zip code, and so my gym teacher's page came. Oh, so it just said ScottyCharisma.com. Like, oh, let me click on this. I'm scrolling through it, old school GeoCity
right.
site.
That's what's kind of visualized. And it's and for everybody out there, it's taking a minute or two each time he's connected to a page. Like he's got to sit there and wait. And
Yep.
It's got to load, or it's like loading down on the screen. Yeah, I was born in 1982, so I'm right there with you. I grew up right in that same time frame.
So I get to the bottom of the page, and the picture finally loads. I'm like, oh my god, that's Scotty. That's my football coach. So I I sent him an email through his website. Like 6 months goes by. He finally saw it and got back to me. And then he had me take a ride down, and we go down to the school. And the day we go down, they were just coming back from a trip to the Carolinas. And so it was like the promoter Gino Caruso, Little Guido, bunch of the guys who were down there. I don't know if you guys ever talked to like Andy Anderson, or Andrew Anderson, who's he used to travel with. He's a guy who's kind of been around forever. He had an M&M's commercial. He used to travel like with Sullivan and Beefcake and those guys a lot. So they're coming back from the Carolinas, and they're all talking about how they were throwing sticks of dynamite in a pond with Moondog stuff. They decided they wanted to go fishing. And I'm like listening to these stories. I'm like, what is this? This is real life. Like wrestlers really do this stuff, and then in walks Simon Diamond, and I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like 19. I'm 20. I'm like 20. I'm marking out. I think it's like the greatest thing ever. So I'm just sitting there, just waiting for someone to come talk to me. Finally, the promoter walks over, and he pops because I'm I'm not anywhere near as big as I was now, but a decent size for for 420. And he tells me how much it is, and I'm like, okay, sir, I'll be right. I'll be back in a couple of months. So I go to work, and I get 2 jobs, start saving, and then I get my tax return. And as soon as I cash that check, I drove down and I paid my tuition.
Nice.
And then I debuted the weekend of WrestleMania 20, which was awesome.
Yes.
At that show, Tito Santana was on that show. And his brother was traveling with him. So I had my first match. Dreamer's there. We're not supposed to know the Dreamer's there because he's very much under contract, but he was there to see Danny Doring. So it was like Doring. God, it was like Doring. Easy Money before people could not track down Easy Money anymore because he's just people were still getting their gear. It was before Easy Money decided to stop making people's gear but kept taking their money. A few other guys were on there, and so I get finished my match, and I come up and Tito's brother walks up and goes, that was your first match? I'm like, yeah, sir. He's like, what did you think? He's oh, not kidding. Like you move like a pro and you carry yourself really well in the locker room. That's really cool, man. I appreciate it. So it brings me over. We get to sit down and talk with Tito. Honky Tonk Man was there, so I popped for Honky Tonk Man because I would see him 1,000 more times. And Honky Tonk Man in the locker room was always entertaining. But
I'm sure.
Oh, dude, so many Honky Tonk stories. But Honky Tonk goes, "What? They put me up in a Hilton. Ain't no one ever put me up in a Hilton before. This town is pretty nice." So spend the rest of the night talking to Tito and his brother, and then it's Sunday. We're heading to the Garden with my friends for WrestleMania 20. And while I'm standing on line, I hear a door open because we're kind of lined up in the back, and I hear, "Young man, come here." Pick my head up, and it's Tito. It's Tito and his brother. They're like, come here. Like, you're going in for the show? And I'm like, yeah. All right, come and follow me. He lets me and my friends through the back.
Wow.
Gave us like a quick little tour.
Nice.
And then we got to our seats a whole 45 minutes before everybody else did.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So that's just kind of like this, some of the most fun stuff I've met tremendous friends, absolutely tremendous friends, had some really cool adventures because of wrestling. So, my mindset, it's like one of my last matches. It was like this weird. We were in a high school, and it was like a weird 10-man tag. But I got the tag. It was me, Slaughter, Hacksaw, a wrestler named Rocky Jones, and like one other person. I can't remember who it was. It was Snuka.
Oh, Jesus.
Against Nikolai.
Oh, it was Snuka, he says. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't, because it was. I did because it was because he wasn't supposed to be in the match. It was Nikolai. It was Nikolai and a bunch of Russians in masks.
Russians in air quotes.
Russians, air quotes Russians.
Yeah, right.
A bunch of guys in masks and Nikolai and one other guy. And so we're going through the match, and I'm the one. I'm just taking all the heat. So I'm bumping my ass off. I'm feeding. I'm wherever I need to be. And when the match is done, Sarge goes, "Hey kid, you move great. You got a lot of experience. How long you been doing this?" I'm like, "Oh, just like 6 years, sir." "Oh, that's awesome. Take my card. Tell Mark Bob said the call." And I'm like, "Who's Mark?" "Jesus, you don't know who Mark Carano is?" I'm like, No. I was like, "Well, here it is. Just tell him I told you to call. We need guys like you." So I called. I mean, we're gonna be in the area in 6 months. Right around then, I wanted to do a camp with Nova. So Nova was like, "No, dude, you did great. I was gonna tell you right now, if you're gonna go do this, you should drop like 15, 20 pounds if you can do it. Trust me, they'll be happy if you did it." I picked a very bad personal trainer. She blew up both my rotator cuffs, damaged my ulnar nerve, and I was kind of like about it for a very long time because it just, for whatever reason, took me forever to recover. But they didn't know that we had that the ulnar nerve damage was as bad as it was. I was just not recovering. I'm like, some people just get like mean and grumpy about crap. I'm like, listen, that's just life.
Yeah.
I got so much from wrestling. Like wrestling owes me nothing. I owe wrestling a lot of things because, again, the wonderful friends I've made. So that's why, like, when I started doing ACW, it was more to let the younger kids kind of get a different kind of experience because they weren't really teaching you the basic information needed to know how to work TV. It was a lot of spot shows, like how to do things with continuity. But I wanted kids to be able to have a place where they could make mistakes and not have to worry about if they were going to be invited back,
right?
Because everybody's got to eat a little shit sometimes, So that was just my way of kind of giving back, and it's been a lot of fun because we managed to do a lot of big mall shows, which weren't happening in my area really ever, so we started some cool trends, and I got to do a quick interview on Fightful a year ago, and it's been a lot of really fun, cool stuff, and then eventually got me over to Marv with Tooney Town, which then eventually got me over to the DW Pro, and and having fun with those guys. It just kind of like I would have never been able to foresee that I'd be spending like a Sunday night, talking to you guys about about my nerdy little habit.
It's
Like,
great
it's just
hearing your enthusiasm
Yeah, I
for
love
it. That's so awesome to hear. I do love it as well.
That's the right approach. Like, it's trying to actually get back to I mean, that's, I hate to go back to complaining about AEW, but one of the things that I complain about the most is when they bragged about not having a PC. I'm like, no, people need to learn. People need to be taught the right way to do this, or we're not going to have this in 20 years.
Dude, that's it, man. And like one of the things, like I know people, especially whenever there's releases, people want to crap all over the WWE. But the WWE for a very long time has had the mindset of they sign a lot of people knowing that not everybody's going to make it. So that includes the people that go into the developmental system. But that is intentional. That's intentional. It's because they recognized a long time ago that the indies were kind of broken. They knew, and the big part of it is the things I listed earlier was there weren't enough people with the right amount of knowledge giving people the information they need to be successful. So we're in a state now where it's the blind leading the blind.
Right.
So the mindset is that like, so even if half these guys wash out, half of them will go back to wrestling. And if that half that goes back even just learned half of what we taught them, it's 100% better than what these kids have now. So at least we can get a couple of one-eyed men running
right
around. And eventually, like it's like a war of attrition. Eventually we'll get back to a place where there's enough viable information on the indies where like the sport's going to be better for it. Cause dude, I can tell you, like it's, especially if you're a Northeast guy, when you would go to tryouts, if you told someone you were from the Northeast, they would roll their eyes because like, oh my God, we're in for it. It's going to be some ass who's not going to listen. I'll tell you a quick story. I won't say who it was, but so like I own my ring. My dad, he does executive protection, executive security, weapons, firearms training. So him and his partner have this massive facility. I call it the Bat Cave. So like during COVID, like guys wanted to get workout, so I set the ring up, and so we were training inside, and a friend of mine from AEW comes, and I'm like, I was happy that he got signed. I was happy to get signed, nice guy. But while we're working out, I hear him say, "Well, I was told there is no wrong way to do things, so just kind of do whatever feels right."
Oh,
I'm like, that's dog shit information. Because, so like, there's no right way to do things. There's a lot of different ways to do things, but there most certainly is a wrong way to do things. It's like, so no, you need to do what you're told until someone shows you a different right way to do it. And then you work with whatever works best for you. But also too, there are rules. Like, listen, yes, you go to Mexico and they're working off of a different side. They're working off a different side of the body. So if you don't want someone to think you're a backyard here in the States, you need to be working off of the appropriate side of the body. If you're in Mexico, it's a little more loose. If you're American, they expect you to be able to change. So you've got to be a little more flexible and dynamic. But like, there's like, don't go giving these new kids who don't know their butt from a hole in the ground this crap information, because you have to, like, I go Jade Cargill, right? Everyone was really hard on Jade for being in AEW for a couple of years and needing all this extra time once she got to the WWE. But the one he kept pointing out was like, no, you don't understand. She got there and she didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for CM Punk, she wouldn't know how to get into the ring.
Right.
So they had to, not only did they have to teach her, they had to deprogram her.
Unteach her the bad habits. Yeah.
That's it. Yep. So again, that takes just as long as learning to do it the right way. So she needed that time, and look at her now. Like, she is an obvious star. She has tremendous presence. She's money.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, hey guys, she's only 2.5, 3 years in if she started learning the right way. So she's still got a long time to grow, but that's like you damn it, man. It's there's a lot of really bad information out there in the indies right now.
Yeah.
There's no wrong way. There's many wrong ways to do many things. Who told you that? Good Lord, that's bad information. In any walk of life, like not just wrestling, but wrestling specifically. Because if you do it wrong, you're going to hurt someone really. Like, Jesus.
dude. Oh my god! So especially during the during the speaking out debacle, which yes, there were some bad actors, but we're moving up. We're talking about 90% of this was you're being a hoe who didn't get called back the next day, even though you knew this guy had a girlfriend or a wife. So I don't feel bad for you. You need to make better choices in your life. But when we started hitting certain trainers, and some of the guys I knew they were tough people, but they were emotionally abusive. I'm like, no. They're talking to you with elevated urgency because you don't get to make mistakes.
Right.
We got to get it right every single time because the second we don't, someone's dead or someone's crippled. There is no such thing as a do-over.
Right.
You get it right or you pay the price. And if you can't get it right, then you need to be mentally strong enough to understand there's consequences for that. And right now you're in an environment where the consequence is getting yelled at. So how are you going to handle when you take away someone's ability to freaking walk
Right.
or to remember their kid's name? It's like it's like, bro, listen, there is a mental toughness that's missing in the current gen, but not all of them because some of it is there. I always go, guys, there's a reason why the WWE is putting a hard focus on grabbing collegiate athletes or people who didn't get signed, during the combines. It's because, they have the mental toughness, they have the grit to be able to survive the pressure. They understand what it is to survive in a team environment. They understand what it is to survive in the high pressure environment. There are more. You could throw a stick right now and you could probably hit somebody who says they're a professional wrestler. Which is a problem because the wrestling needs workers, not wrestlers. But the WWE doesn't want indie wrestlers because indie wrestlers come with indie wrestler problems. They want athletes who can kind of survive an ass chewing and not boo boo face the rest of the night. They dust off and they keep going until they get it right. Because that's the name of the game. That's the most freaking important thing. Like I don't understand what some people what some of these kids don't understand about that. It's like, no, it's what we do is very fun. I'd say that I've never had more fun in my life than when I actively wrestled. It was just one of the greatest things I've ever been able to do, aside from being a parent.
Yeah.
But it's one of my most favorite things I've ever done. And I do miss it, but it comes with a lot of responsibility that should never be undersold. And you are solely responsible for making sure that your dance partner gets to go home.
Right.
He gets to go home. So it's it's silly that you have people out there who don't understand that you're getting screamed at because when you tried to do your hip toss, you didn't post, and the person was going to slip, and they were going to be in danger of landing on their neck if you didn't get stopped before you did it, or because you didn't bridge your back properly, that this person slipped down, and when they landed on their leg, they landed on the leg wrong, and when that femur comes exploding through the skin. You're not going to be the one who's going to have to drop the thousands of dollars in hospital bills. So it's one of the frustrating things about the new gen. But again, we've got some mental toughness guys. I think listen, there's some kids who are out there right now who I think are going to do gangbusters. There's a young tag team called Live Danger. They're training out of the New Japan school with Fred Rouser, and they are super impressed. I love these kids, man. They did a couple shows for me. And they're gonna be a big deal soon.
Nice.
They're gonna be a real big deal soon. I guess it's kids like that. I won't say who they are because I don't want to gas them up too much.
Yeah.
But both were Division 1 and 2 athletes and really humble kids, smart kids. They have really bright futures. They have really bright futures, and they're learning. They're learning from Fred, and dude, Fred was one of my favorite people in the Indies when he was Fred Sampson. Fred was always great, always worked hard. Was always a pleasure to be around. Was always very giving. So, to have someone like that in a leadership role, it's, I don't really think he asked for anything better. And I would even say, there were 4 guys that my old coach ran. He ran around with with Robbie, with Rob Echoes, now Robert Stone,
Okay.
with Damian Adams, who's a super prolific teacher. Damian was always on like Jacked and Metal on the syndicated shows.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was a guy that they were in the area that they would bring him in because he could have a good match with anybody, make you look like a star. And then Fred was the other guy. And they consider themselves like an indie 4 horsemen, and just tremendous talents, man, tremendous talents, and it's awesome to kind of see where everybody wound up, because it was weird, like when WCW folded and TNA was still kind of new and ROH was coming up, it was really hard to kind of get attention. Like if you weren't willing to essentially kill yourself, you weren't going to get onto ROH. Like you just had to be willing to die to get onto ROH TV. TNA, once they started getting out of Nashville, the priority kind of shifted. They wanted guys who had a little more equity already built in, so it was kind of hard to get on there. And then it was hard to get into WWE unless you were over 6'1". So there were a lot of really talented guys that were floating around who didn't really get their due, and we're talking pre-YouTube, pre-YouTube, pre-iPhone.
Right.
So there's a lot of like super talented guys who just never really got their due. But my God, man, they could go. Like one guy in particular, Mario Baccaro, he did like a little run on TNA with Follow Ball. But when I knew him, he was most sexy when I was learning from him. I mean, he got to go down to OVW for a little bit. But like Mo was like one of those guys. I would say Mo is one of the greatest performers out there to have never been able to perform on live television. And that, that's just, but again, that's just kind of like how the cookie crumbles, right? Like the best guys don't get drafted. The best guys don't get drafted to the NFL, the NBA, or the NHL. It's the right place, right time, right opportunity. But so.
And then you got to get the breaks to fall for you too. Like that's the other thing is that there's a lot of other things those are things you can control, is how hard you work, how well you take coaching, that sort of thing. But I mean, then the world can happen to you and change everything. So yeah, it's a.
Yep. So like it's nice to see like a lot of those guys. It went well from like Damien in particular. His kids, his students always wind up backstage, for WWE or AEW. They get a lot of dark matches, get a lot of exposure, and that's just a testament to Damien's ability as a teacher. And then I guess I would be remiss in not mentioning, my 2 guys. I broke these guys in the Graysons, the current JCW tag team champions. Tommy and JP. These are 2 kids who have worked their butts off for a really long time. They've had their ups and downs and had to eat a little bit of crow, but they learned. They fought, they improved, and they got linked up with ICP last summer and won those JCW titles, and they're making the most of it, man. They got a quick little cameo at GCW. And they rep those belts. They rep those belts really well. I'm very proud of them. So awesome. I also hope to see big things from them too. So
awesome. Well, Kev, you've given us more than I expected tonight.
Amazing.
You want to tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll let you go.
Oh, awesome, man, guys! Thank you for having me on. I had a lot of fun. So if you ever need me, man, feel free to give me a shout. I apologize if I rambled on, but I get excited.
We love it. We're here for the passion. We love it.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Especially I get to talk to you guys. You guys are super easy to talk to, and your enthusiasm is infectious.
That's what we go for.
You want to tell people where they can see you or find you?
Yeah. So give me a shout over here on X at War Dog Apollo, or follow me at ACW_Coliseum for the ACW X page, and it's a War Dog_Apollo on Instagram, and then same thing, ACW_Coliseum on Instagram as well. So we've got a couple of shows coming up over here in the New York area. July 12th in Middletown. We're going to do a great American Banger 2.
Nice.
From the Middletown Mall. What is the Galleria at Crystal Run? And then I think in June we're gonna do I'm gonna call it a summer breakout. We're gonna do a little summer breakout tour where we're gonna run out of the Haverstraw Community Center, really until Christmas break. And I think if it works out, it's still very tentative. But if the scheduling permits, the Christmas show, which I call Santa Slam, Dreamer or Crowbar, if not Dreamer and Crowbar, we'll be on that. We'll be on the last show of the year.
That's
so
awesome.
A lot of fun stuff coming up. I'll make more announcements on the ACW socials, but yeah, man, like I said, you guys have been great. I really appreciate you having me.
Anytime, buddy. This is a lot of fun.
We appreciate your time, man.
All right, gents. Good luck with the rest of the night. I like I said, I can't thank you enough, man. This was awesome.
Thank you.
That's what we hope for. Thank you. I was glad to hear it, buddy. We had a great time.
All right. Take care, gents. Be well.
That was awesome.
Well, guys,
stories.
that was fun. We're going to stick around for the Lights Out segment.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk? Now's your chance to pop in. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, I think
if you like what you've heard, we're at AltJake Takes On YouTube. We're on the strive for 500 subs, so go over there and sub. Help us out.
Yeah, we are growing. Well, I think we're going pretty well, at least with it. But yeah, we're having fun. That's the best part. And yeah, that was a really cool conversation. Man, that time flew by. All of a sudden, I looked down and it's 90 minutes had passed. Woo, that was awesome.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, no, thanks for George set that up. If anybody wants to hear how he set it up, listen to our last show or even the clip that I posted where he tells me live on air that we're getting Kevin to come join us. And that was more than I was expecting. That was awesome.
There was a lot going into that. Awful help me get connections, and because we had to do a lot of things behind the scenes there.
Yeah. Hey, we love all. Thank you so much for that.
It was a good time.
But is there anything you like? Well, I know we wanted to at least talk a little bit. He brought up about the releases, how we talked about it. That was, I think you kind of covered a lot of what I was going to talk about that, though, of how it's, it is what it is. They're a business.
Everything worked its well into that conversation.
It really did.
Everything he kind of leaned into where I was going and leaned into where you were going.
That was fun. That was a good time. But yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to ask any questions, go for it. We can raise hands, talk to people. We're still got some time for sure. I'm good. I know George has got some time tonight.
Yeah, no work tomorrow for me. Any speakers, or are we done?
I got a couple of names. What's up, D?
Hey, Jake.
How you doing, D?
You guys did it. You guys got some kind of Apollo Toontown wrestling on there.
That was great. How awesome was that, man? Hey, we've got 2 of the 4 down, and Awful's welcome back anytime he wants.
Yes.
Welcome back too.
I'm looking forward to you guys' clips and longer viewer. I can't wait to listen to this.
Oh yeah, no, I will. I'm gonna be. I got no work tomorrow either, so I'm gonna clip this up and try to post as best I can. Chris, what's up, buddy? I saw Chris's hand come up. What's going on, Chris?
Not much. So I was wondering what you guys think of the releases, and
yeah, no, that was kind of one of the things I was gonna want to talk about.
For you, Jake, let's just focus on like the Raw people.
Hey, Chris,
where would you go?
Chris, before we get there, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You want to be our special guest next week?
I would be honored.
Okay. Hell yeah. Man, George's always working behind the scenes. No, the thing about the releases for me is it's one of the things, first off, it's not surprising in general. Obviously, we all know there's going to be mass releases after WrestleMania. The thing is just even everybody as a whole, I really can't say anybody surprised me. Like there was people that you're sad to see. It's never fun for anybody to lose a job. Nobody wants to see that, but it's one of those things where kind of like Kevin was saying, there is an opportunity now. The way's been shown by people like Cody, Drew, Matt Cardona. They're like the best 3 at what you can do after getting released or leaving the WWE. But I mean, there's so much opportunity now to like get yourself over through social media or YouTube or whatever you can do to prove that, to create something that does get over. And what I think is cool now is if you get something that gets over outside of the company, they've shown they're willing to bring that in and present that through WWE as opposed to before, you get a character over on the indies and then they're going to change your name and throw it out. But I mean, I guess like Cora Jade was kind of surprising because she's been featured a bunch, but doesn't she got bad knee problems? Like, I don't want to be mean, but it's just the truth. Like, injuries are part of the thing. And I haven't watched much of LFG, but I've seen parts of it. I've watched a good amount of Evolve, and I watch NXT every week. Like, there's a lot
Donna
of younger
Palmer.
talent.
Yeah, I don't think Donna Palmer was good, but I was like, bye bye to her.
Yeah, it's just one of those
Gigi
things
Dolan,
that.
I was surprised at.
What was
That
that?
was the one that shocked me.
Which one surprised you?
Gigi Dolan, because
Yes.
you just put her with a tag team. She's mostly healthy, and you have no tag teams right now. I mean, it's like, all right, well, let's just throw two people together.
Yeah, I would say that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was in my head. I'm like, there's two that really surprised me, and it was her and Jakara Jackson. I thought both of them have the opportunity to continue to grow and still move and do better, but they just, I don't know. I was surprised to see that happening with them. Honestly, those were the two that surprised me the most, because I thought there was still a lot of opportunity there, but I also don't know who they've got in the pipeline. That was the thing that Kevin was talking about with like the NIL talent and how people sometimes crap on them, but like he was saying, and like you can see in a lot of them, those people are ready to be coached. You put them under the right coaching and they can take that getting yelled at and getting punishment or whatever it is and become successful. I mean, just look at, obviously, Braun Breaker knew the business as part of it, but Tiffany Stratton, and I don't think she ever watched wrestling before she got an NIL deal, and look where she's at. And, you see Trick Williams is another one that I'm sure he at least was more aware of wrestling, but I mean, he played football his whole life and then came right over and he's put in the work and become a star. So it's one of those situations that it's sad to see anybody lose their job. But like Kevin was saying, there's TNA is a great place now. MLW, MLP, Maple Leaf Pro. There's options stateside, or I think he kind of nailed it, which I hadn't thought about much because I always forget about NJPW honestly anymore, but that's a great, they're going to need stars and people to get themselves over there if people keep leaving. So that's my thoughts.
So you guys
Yeah.
mentioned Cora Jade.
Yeah.
24, 25, terrible knees.
And
that's
isn't
a
it
bad
both of
thing,
them?
but also she's not exactly what's the word I'm looking for here? Behind the scenes, she's a shit disturber from what I've been paying attention to.
She's a shit
I don't
stir.
pay attention to much, but when I hear it from certain people that I know, that I trust, and they told Braun Breaker to stay away from this woman, sorry.
Well, they were together and then all of a sudden they weren't. So.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
I just looked it up.
Yeah.
She's 24 and she just turned 24 in January. So yeah, she's definitely, that's the thing. Anybody who's young, as long as they can stay healthy, and hopefully her knees can, whether what happens, but she's, there's a chance to there's enough out there where you can prove yourself. What's also cool is, WWE is keeping an eye on the indie scene with the WWE ID program. So if you put yourself out there, you definitely could get yourself a chance to come back.
Yeah, and
that's
plus,
what they want.
Cora Jade and they've been featured in TNA pretty well.
She has. That's
she
what I
was
was
with
thinking
Tessa
earlier.
Blanchard, and those two did a pretty good job. I mean, they weren't a bad tag team for Spitfire.
Yeah, no, they make a good, and they do make a good heel duo, and that's. I kind of feel like there's certain people that might have been WWE's kind of like giving them an olive branch by sending them down there and doing some work for TNA. That like you got to build those connections, because when I saw she was released, that was my first thought was
TNA.
Yeah, that was, but I also thought Rusev was going to go to TNA for a bit before coming back, and I was wrong. So I am open to being wrong. I have been and will. I will continue to be at different points. I got no problem.
In fairness to you, Jake, about Rusev, he's big money. So
true.
I don't think they can afford Rusev yet. I mean, when you're already paying people like the Hardys and Nick Nemeth, with Rusev, it's like he wants to be paid big. So you knew he was going straight to WWE, and he's a rarity. He's a big guy who looks like he can beat the living piss out of anybody.
He's a big, scary Bulgarian.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
And he did not come out in the Minnie Mouse T-shirt.
Yeah, it helps that he comes down and looks, and didn't have like pants that were ridiculously skin tight and like only went to like he was wearing capri pants and a Minnie Mouse shirt, and we're supposed to be and talking about video games. Like that's Again, that's where I get the pain behind my eye sometimes when I think of just how stupid some of it is. But hey,
I don't know where AEW went wrong with Mero. I'm like
that was
he was
it.
Mero.
Right there.
It was from day one. If they'd have, because the Redeemer stuff really did work.
Yeah.
The problem was it was too late. Like, you'd already set him out there like a goof with Kip Sabian. And that goes back to the major problems of AEW is there's not somebody that can help filter, or like I said, Tony wants to be in charge more than he wants to be successful. And until that mindset changes, we're going to get what we're going to get out of AEW. It's just,
I'm like, you had a good chance to really do something with Mero after what happened. I'm like,
but the problem, I mean, like I said earlier, it's AEW's biggest problem is the and then what. Now with him, they debuted him like crap and there was never a chance for and then what. But most people, they're the most over when they show up. They get there, they're presented decently well, they do something, and then what? And it never works out.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
I do not like the way Brody King is like treating like a jobber now too. Brody King, I'm like, what are they doing with that man?
You can fill in the blank on that thing.
There's literally, there's a rotating, and how many times has Hobbs switched from heel to babyface? Like literally, that man has shifted, he's shifted back and forth more than Big Show, I feel like. It's just, cause I don't watch the shows regularly. I keep an eye on it and I usually keep an eye on the pay-per-views, but it's just, you're like, wait, he's a heel now? He's a babyface again? He's over there? And who's with whatever group? And there's just no cohesion, but like Kevin was saying, when they're only doing it once a week, and if you're only wrestling on every other show or every third show, like it's never gonna get anywhere. But that's Tony. He never wants to put in the work. He just wanted to show up at day one and be the second the competition to WWE and then take them over. But you've got to actually build your brand, build a company, focus on your own stuff, and then you can be competition. But, like I said on the last show that George and I did, I really believe that William Regal was the last hope. Like when he showed up, like they could have had him, like not even running the show, just being like behind the scenes in the meetings with Tony. Like they have a little quick session and then Tony makes the decision. Tony makes all the calls, but really,
Cody really helped him out too. Cody. I'm like, just throw those guys way off the company.
You could see it in how Cody was, like the stuff where he was he was trying to be a baby face, but getting heel reactions. Like he was trying, but like his I always call it his level, like the level of give a shit. His give a shit meter died when Tony like took over the book and ran with it. He knew what was going to happen. He knew. I mean, that's why Cornette said that he had the one meeting with Tony and was like, I'm fine. I don't want to work with him. Cause he knew that like Cody still had hope that he could help get what he wanted out of it and actually be a wrestling promotion that is sports based and has shows that actually matter and not just a bunch of moves back and forth.
And Tony, he wants to wear so many hats, the CEO, the president,
he loves the titles.
Yeah, the titles.
Yeah, no, that's, if you see him in the, when they put him on screen for an interview, it's like he's like, it's like Game of Thrones where he's got to have 17 titles to get to his name. But and the problem is like, you can't even call him a jack of all trades and a master of none. He's like a joker of all trades and a jack of, he just doesn't, like nothing that he does really works, but because he's a spoiled rich kid and everybody wants to leech off of him, he's allowed to do it, and we'll see how long it goes. I mean, if WBD doesn't have a good year with their movies and everything else, it'll be interesting if they get merged or bought out and taken over, and then all those talks of people like, oh, well, they're making $185 million or whatever.
Because the show was good when Cody made it. When they first started, oh my goodness, they made an impact on everything.
Yeah, no, it was. There were parts of it that were kind of hokey or whatever, but it wasn't the entire flow of the show. And at least there were points where it wasn't, like George was saying earlier, how the two matches back to back will end the same way, or they'll be similar vignettes. There's just because they're not working together and they don't have production meetings, so it makes sense. But it's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the actual quickest we've ever booked the guest for next week.
Right?
So I'm pretty
Yeah.
happy about that.
I'll promote it for us.
Chris,
else?
you're definite, right?
I am definite.
Hell yeah.
Okay, 8:05 Eastern next week. Chris Connor from Last Call Wrestling will be joining us. Thank you.
Sweet. Who else has got some?
Anything else? I think that's going to wrap it up for today.
Let's see if maybe else any other questions or whatever.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Thank you all.
Well, this
next
is awesome,
week.
everybody.
Chris
We will
Connor.
see you all next week with Chris Connor as our special guest. Hell yeah, I'm excited. Looking forward to it. Have a good
All
night,
right,
everybody.
gang. Nice to see you
Take
guys.
care.